Well, hello there, everyone. This is Dr. Schroeder with this week's video introduction, week number 2 of our course in the theories of learning and nursing education. And we got off to a really good start this week. A very interesting conversation. The primary focus, of course, was to discuss the missions and the value statements and the philosophical foundations the different schools use when they describe their educational philosophy, which ultimately is that thing that is supposed to drive all curriculum and all decisions that are made within a university. This is similar for those of you that have worked in nursing management. If you've ever worked on a project where you have to identify like a mission and value statement for the hospital or the organization that you work in. The idea is that every policy and procedure and everything that organization does reflects somehow in their values and their mission statements. And they are meant to be, by nature, very broad, very overarching, very abstract. And so that's why some of you, when you went through and as you were doing these surveys to get your own, assess your own attitudes and beliefs, it probably, you shake your head a little bit and it just all sounds so general. Um, and there's a reason for that, and that's because most schools, particularly those that have a school of nursing, have all adopted pretty much the same language. You'll notice that there's a lot of language that discusses that we teach within a student-centered perspective, and that we are there to meet the needs and to instill values of caring and um, doing well for our fellow man. These are very common um, discussions, very common statements that are made in these philosophical statements. But it's important to note that not every school necessarily follows that particular kind of language. For example, if you were going to a school that is a business school, you're probably not going to see a lot of talk about student-centeredness. You're going to talk, things that are more constructive and a little bit more progressive in nature. Um, Sacred Heart University is a bit unique in that it is a Catholic university, but if you look at the history and if you look at the description of the school, it's actually defined as a liberal arts school. It's not a theological seminary. It's not there to teach people about the Catholic religion or to teach priests how to be Catholic ministers. It is there as uh, from a liberal arts perspective, and liberal arts just means that it is there to enhance knowledge and enhance knowledge on a lot of different levels. It's really what liberal arts is all about. When you hear about a liberal arts school, it means that they don't have just one school. So liberal arts schools typically have a variety of many different types of programs, as opposed to a business school that will focus really only on business and be a little bit more as essential in framework. And so we've gone over a lot of these different terms and have been introduced to them. Um, just know at this point that what we're really starting on is a discussion of this concept of pedagogy and trying to define what a pedagogy is. And that's going to be where we're going to be starting in week 2. In week 2, you're going to be learning about a variety of different pedagogic um, methods or different pedagogic philosophies. Learning and teaching is something that varies and it happens in different ways. There is no one right way that people learn. Um, Learning is a social construct. We learn socially from those around us. We also learn from a cognitive sense. And so we're going to be learning about Bandura and social theory, Piaget and his cognitive theories. And we're going to be discussing and learning a little bit in a nursing education sense how these different theories relate back to nursing education. And so that's going to be the focus of the discussion question this week, is discussing and going over these different theories and think about which one really matches your particular which one resonates with you. Many of you this week had discussed, progressivism, for example, as something that was very student-centered. You like that student-centered. You like that patient-centeredness and student-centeredness. And that is, and real, actually, most nursing education tends to be very progressive in nature. Um, but there are also other viewpoints as well. There's a humanist viewpoint, there's a behaviorist viewpoint. So we'll be talking about these and discussing these various viewpoints and how they relate back to education. Also, you have a paper due this week, Your Philosophy of Nursing Education. Again, is where you're going to distill your knowledge and your learning and your understanding of these different ways of how people learn and these different concepts of learning, and relate it back to the nursing meta paradigms and relate it back to your understanding of nursing theory. And so ultimately, we're going to be combining this concept of nursing theory with educational theory, which actually in the real world are very similar. There's not a tremendous amount of difference between a lot of what we do in nursing theory and what we're doing in educational theory. They're actually they layer quite well. And in fact, some nursing theories, for example, Benner's nursing theory uh, relies heavily on education theories and learning styles. And we'll talk a little bit about that and no doubt get into a little bit of discussion of multiple intelligences. There's a lot of meat out there. As you've no doubt noticed, my style is to I don't respond to every discussion thread, or I let the class lead the discussion as much as possible, and then I chime in when it looks like there's some things that need to be clarified or something where I think that I can add something new, and usually posing new questions in a Socratic format. So you'll look for me to be, uh, posing new questions and maybe uh, restating things a little bit that make you think about a little bit differently. That's really what my role is here. But I very much enjoyed week one. I think that we're off to a great start. I think that for a class, we are coming together well. I look forward to participating along in discussions with you. Please, 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 if you have any questions, please feel free to post them. If any of the concepts or if any of these things that we are discussing, if they sound uh, like they just don't make sense, or if you notice that it seems like some of them just sound like they're just all saying the same thing, or a common thread or a common refrain from some students is they all sound like psychobabble. Go ahead and let me know, and we'll go ahead and discuss those a little bit. I can start a side discussion on some of those concepts as well. But I look forward to participating along in class with you, reviewing your assignments later this week. My grading for week one, which really this week I believe was just the discussion questions. Usually I do the grading by about midweek or so, by Wednesday or Thursday, always by Friday, unless something really slows me down. Um, and most of my days participating in class usually are on Thursdays through Saturdays are my big days. Those are the days when you're primarily discussing and doing discussions. That's primarily what I'm going to be in the class doing discussions as well. I'll be checking the discussion questions frequently, and I'll be checking the class every day, always, and my mail constantly as well. But look for my most of my participation usually later in the week with grades sometime about midweek or so. So carry on. I look forward to participating along with you in class, and we'll see you in the discussion forums.